bobbing when the red robin comes. Bobbing when the red robin comes. Bobbing along.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members. Hello and welcome to the Robin Pod Weekly. It's great to be speaking about Hull Kingston Rovers once again, fresh from a resounding victory over the Catalan Dragons. And of course, the Castleford Tigers are up next on Thursday night. Joining me this evening to speak about all things Hull KR are Bazza and Steve Till. Robin Pod regulars, of course, will be giving you their biased opinions on all things Hull Kingston Rovers. I'll start with you, Steve. That Challenge Cup victory, time moves fast, doesn't it? And you know, what are we, over a week away from that victory? We're in the thick and the fast of it at the moment now. The league campaign is back on track.
Yeah, it's back to the ground, isn't it? The Catalan's victory was a kind of a real ending to an exciting couple of weeks, and now it's back to the real yakka, as they say in Australia, and against a team that will put it up to us as well, you know. But sticking with Catalans, it was a brilliant performance. I think it's probably the best performance from any team that's won the cup or been at Wembley and then the following week put up a performance like that. And it was exciting. It was in front of a full house. The weather was good. Everything about it was terrific. And like I say, it's over with now, though, but no doubt we'll talk about the actual match, but it's over with now and it's down to the hard grind again.
Yeah, I tell you what, Bazza, I'll bring you in very shortly, mate, because I know you're gasping to speak. You can't wait. You're chomping at the bit. But Steve, do you know what? I've seen people talking about the Challenge Cup final, when it should be played. Should it be played later on in the season? Blah, blah. We've already got the date for next season's Challenge Cup final, which I'm sure is the
30th of May.
Yeah, 30th of May. So that's already in the diary. Robins fans, make sure you bookmark that. Start booking your hotels and. But what's great about having the Challenge Cup final at this stage of the season, particularly from a Robins point of view, is we can have it, put it to bed, and you've still got a good run at the grand final, the league leaders, you know, the rest of the season. Whereas I think, Steve, if you had it later on in the season, there's every chance, isn't there, that if you win it, players can sometimes down tools, revel in the glory, forget about the next challenge ahead. Whereas now, I think the way the Robins have done it, which has been very smart, and it's not through necessarily their doing, but they can bookmark it, and now we can kick on for the rest of the season. Yeah,
I mean, I think there's one more compulsory break during the season. I think that would be for an international match normally, but God knows what.
Well, it's a training camp, Steve. There's no international match. Traditionally, we'd have that fixture against bloody France, wouldn't we?
France,
Whereas they're not doing it this season. But I know Sean Wayne there's going to be a training camp and he's going to get the players together. But for all the other players, of course, it's a break.
And for the England players, it's a training camp rather than out battle against France. Do we have battles against France anymore?
We used to.
It's not an out-and-out full-blooded game, so even the players, and I'd like to think quite a few Rovers players will be picked in the squad. They can just enjoy the training camp. So everybody wins in a way. But yeah, but if you remember, let's go back to when it was later in the season, which was 2 years ago that Rovers were there when we got beat by Leigh. We had I think 10 games left after the cup final, and we played St Helens the immediate game after the cup final, got well and truly dumped. But then I actually felt that we'd win every other league game after that, the remaining 9, and we did. So, you know, it can work both ways. But this time we've got about 6 games before the break, and then how many games after that? 7 after that, I think, and that takes us to the playoffs. Our key time for me is August, when we play Wigan, St Helens and Leeds, one after the other. I think that will be a crucial time, and that will sort out the playoff situation or the league standings. But yeah, I think it's ideally timed, the cup final, end of May, beginning of June, and I like the format. So let's keep it. Why not? Because whichever format they choose, somebody's not going to like it, are they? You know,
normally it's a losing team, Steve, who don't like it.
They're going to be critics of that format.
Yeah.
So let's keep it as it is. Let's
right.
get a second.
You're right, Steve. Let's look at this Catalan game. I mean, Bazza 68 points to 6. By all accounts, we were expecting this to be the strongest Catalan side that had probably, I dare say it, been out this season. They'd been away for I think a 6-day camp or 7-day camp. Obviously, they'd missed a game because the Challenge Cup final. So no wonder a lot of Robins fans expected a strong Catalan Dragons side to come to Craven Park. Wow. Well, what did we see? Because it, you know, I put out at halftime, this is the worst Catalan side I think I've ever seen. You know, and we've seen some good Catalan sides. That was bad. That was rank bad, wasn't it? And the game, I mean, I think by the end of the game, Rovers were just chucking passes out, trying to offload. Like the game had gone, and they was trying all kinds of stuff. But it's rare territory, isn't it, Bazza, to be in a game like this where we back up after such a big game. I likened it on to the last Robin pod, I think, when we used to have the Good Friday and then Bank Holiday Monday game. And Rovers always struggled to do the Monday, you know, after beating that lot. It felt a bit like that. And I tell you what, not only did we beat them, we battered them.
Yeah, absolutely, Johno. I mean, going into this game, as a Rovers fan, I don't care who you are, I think we was all in unknown territory of, you know, backing up a Wembley win. How are we going to react to that? The boys loved every minute of it, celebrated hard. I was in Craven Street saying to my mate 𝗵𝗵𝗏𝗧, saying, like, I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I could see us winning it by 8, and if that was the case, I was quite happy with it, because you was looking into, like you've just said, Catalan doing a camp away from the squad going to training camp to sort themselves out and whatnot. So I actually half expected a good old battle, and seeing the Catalan players coming out the tunnel, I'm like, some big bodies out there. Let's just hope we're not too hungover. You know, I'll take a win. I'll be happy with that. If it's an 8-point win, I'll take it. But what Catalan produced was, honestly, I've watched pretty much every game this year, mate, and I've seen more heart and desire in that depleted Salford side than I did on Friday night. It was embarrassing, and I think somebody said Steve McNamara was in the crowd, so he must have been sat up there in the West Stand thinking, Jesus, what has happened to this club where he's given so much time for? I don't know where Catalans go, and you can't even use the excuse of them losing 2 men, being down to 11 men at one point, because in the blink of an eye, it was 18-0 up, and that was when they had 13 on the field. So obviously it doesn't help when Garcia gets sent off and Maria, but mate, it's dreamland for me as a Rovers fan, because no way did I expect it. Again, it was the unknown. I didn't know what to expect. We ain't got the best history of backing up a big win or a crucial win. So for us to come out like that, I think it really does show the mentality of the players. I mean, we hear coaches say, yeah, we've trained well, yeah, we're out to compete, but you actually start to feel like now when Willie says it, he means it. And Willie Peters in his post-match couldn't even remember how many points we'd scored. It was more bothered about the try we'd let in. And I think Jack Broadbent said it on Sky, from what I've heard, that he was disappointed. And Jesse Sue today on his pre-match, everyone seems more disappointed with the try they actually let in as opposed to the 68 points they scored. And that just shows the mentality of our boys at the minute, of especially of us going forward. It's unbelievable, mate.
Yeah, I tell you what, Steve, we'll talk about some of the specifics very shortly in terms of the tries scored. But I mean, 12 tries, 10 conversions. And then Bazza's right to point out, I suppose the only blot on the copybook was that Cy try, wasn't it? Because it wasn't a Catalan team play. It wasn't anything that they did. It was just a pure moment of magic from one player. And I think Willie Peters and probably the rest of the players were frustrated that for that moment, they just switched off. It was
just missing the free breakfast.
Yeah, but when you're so many points in front and you think you've got a team well measured, you know, I'm not being funny, mate. Even the best, players can be sometimes afforded the I don't know, not necessarily switching off, but just that, not expecting it. Not expecting it to come.
Nobody's perfect, and there was a mistake. Actually, I'm going to go back, quote somebody from way back, Brian Noble, once when Bradford played St Helens. If you go back, and that cup tie when St Helens fielded a weakened team, Brian Noble says we expected George Foreman and we got George Formby. Well, that's exactly what we got against Catalans last week. We were expecting George Foreman and got George Formby, and why that happened, I don't know. It must have been ingrained into Catalans, because we, as Bazza says, we were expecting a tough game. I was expecting a tough game. I think they got 8 start on the Coon, Catalans. So mentally, each and every individual Catalans player must have just lost it mentally, and so it became a group thing. But they were terrible, the worst.
Well, look, I think as well, Steve, they look gassed. I mean, I was looking at that 𝗕𝗂𝗃𝗁. Normally your wingers, centres, fullback, your fittest players, they're the ones who go, because you need them or get. After 15 minutes, hands on hips,
I think he made one decent run, didn't he, in the first quarter of the game, and then that was it, and he was up against our least experienced winger. Well,
I'm going to ask you about him, Steve. Not quite yet, but I'm going to ask you about some of these players, especially Noah Booth, because I know you've got some insight. Bazza, I mean, when you look at the scoreline, of course, 68 points to 6, 38-0 at half time. I mean, you already know the game's done and dusted. And I was saying to my mate Carl, who was next to me, I said, look, Willie Peters won't be bothered about now getting 40, 50. It'll all be about that 0. Now, unfortunately, we didn't quite get over the line with that. But I tell you what, we were so close to doing it. And then the tries we were scoring, some of the rugby league that we showcased. But there's no doubt in that first half, there was 2 major talking points, weren't they? Of course, there was a sin binning of Maria. And then we saw the Catalan's captain, Garcia, just absolutely lose his head. I mean, tell us about the suspension he's received and the charge, because at that moment in the game, quite clearly from the east stand, you saw fists being swung. Admittedly, you saw Minchella swinging a punch at Partington. I don't know what happened there, but he didn't land it. And then all of a sudden, you just saw. I was watching the game, Bazza, and then all of a sudden, Minchella's laid on the floor. And then when they start showing the replays, and it looked worse every time. It's just a crazy moment, really, in the context of the game.
It was, mate, and I still can't work it out. I mean, I was down in the well on Friday night, and it looked like there was a bit of grubbiness, a bit of unwanted attention coming on Mini and Mikey in the build-up to that, especially when Maria got sent for 10. So I think words had been said, and it had just spilled over. Something had happened a couple of sets before. What? I don't know. But when the incident with Mini, it was just a little push out, you know, and there was nothing in it. We see it week in, week out. Every team does it, you know, a little push to the head, a little push to the shoulder or whatever in the ruck. It happens, right? And the difference between two captains, Elliot Minchella, OKR captain, Ben Garcia, Catalan captain, one's professional and one ain't, because Mini kept his head. Ben Garcia was not leading by example. And, you know, it blindsided him. It was a cheap shot, right? I half expected Mini maybe to get 10, you know, because we saw his arms going out. It didn't, thankfully, and he didn't even get cited for it. What I can't get my head round is the match review panel referred him to tribunal for today with a grade E charge, which is a minimum of 6 games. Now he's got a 4-game ban. Now, it was it 3 weeks ago? Jamie Shaw, pretty much the same incident for the 𝗀𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀, 6-match ban. So you just want a level of consistency. Now, for that to be reduced to 4 when the initial charge is a minimum of 6, I can't work that one out, whether he's owned up to throwing punches, but if they've reduced that by 2 games because he said he got provoked, then the RFL are opening themselves up now for a free-for-all. You know, don't get me wrong, we do like a bit of biff in the game, but that was just lunacy. That was lunacy what Ben Garcia did, you know. I don't even think I wouldn't accept it if it was any of our boys, unless it was justified. And for me, it wasn't justified the way he was swinging. It was totally out of order. I mean, Mikey, poor sod, he ended up with a big shiner for it. But no, I think the RFL have let themselves down by reducing it to 4. But will Ben Garcia learn his lesson? I don't know. Why did he do it? Is it frustration for the Catalan team? We don't know. We don't know what goes on in that camp. But either way, that's been stamped out of our game for some years now. And I know the Australians have seen clips of it and they've absolutely loved it. But yeah, it's not needed. It really isn't. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I suppose, Steve, on the plus side is that, I mean, Tom Grant, to be fair, who I think had a decent game, he dealt with it on the pitch. You know, we see some match officials will put things on report and let someone else deal with it. And ultimately, you know, I do think that Garcia, he left him nowhere to go with a red card. What was frustrating for me is it wasn't Garcia and Minchella going toe-to-toe. It was a sucker. Well, it wasn't a punch. You know, I put out it was a sucker punch. It was a sucker slap. So if you watch it in slow down, it wasn't a clenched fist. I think that went down. I think that was probably part of the mitigation, that it wasn't a clenched fist. But there's no doubt, Steve, if someone comes from the side or from behind and whacks you in the face and you're not expecting it, that's totally different from going toe-to-toe with someone, innit, face-to-face and both going at it.
I think if they had both gone at it, if it had been the two of them face-to-face, they'd have got 10 minutes each. But you can't throw a punch, you know. And you say the referee, a lot of referees that have put it on report, I think every referee would have had to use that as a send-off. It's an immediate send-off.
Yeah.
But I think you hit the nail on the head, Bazza, where you said Garcia was frustrated by his teammates. Garcia was putting every ounce of effort into that game, and suddenly he finds himself 18-0 down and looking at his teammates and saying, is somebody going to effing work? Yeah. You know, and, you know, I think that was the frustration Garcia had. It was stupid. He'll learn by it. He's a decent player, good player. I like him. I always have liked him. And it was just one of those where the redness came down. You throw a punch and you throw a punch. It's good night. You're off.
Yeah, and as well, don't forget as well, Bazza, it was a change side. You know, it wasn't the side that lined up at Wembley in the Challenge Cup final. We saw 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗧, of course, come back. I mean, I was so gutted he didn't get the try. He kicked so well. You know, I was desperate for him to go over. Played so well. I think he made close to 180 meters. You know,
well, sorry, Johno. I think the biggest surprise of that night was 𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃 not getting over. Of all people, it was my biggest surprise. 𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃 didn't get over.
Yeah, and of course, then we saw Eric Dorroy back in the lineup. We saw Bill Leyland, and then we saw Noah Booth. I mean, Noah Booth, Steve. I know you know family, and you've seen his journey. I remember you mentioning to me, "Oh, Rovers going to sign him." I think you are, you know, as much as us as supporters are surprised. Probably you're a little bit surprised the acceleration in terms of his ascent to the first team. Not only having the odd appearance, he's now actually he's the next cab off the rank in terms of those centre. And also when he plays, what I loved not only was his try, was the assist that he what he gave. I think was it Broadbent.
Yeah.
You know,
if you remember in that move, Noah Booth had to catch the ball behind his shoulder, didn't he? So he's caught the ball behind his shoulder, straightened up, gone for the line, knew he wasn't going to get to the line, but knew there'd be somebody inside it and slipped the ball. That is a maturity beyond his age, you know, in my opinion. And I know that a lot of Rovers fans are going the way I've felt about him. He's become a talking point in a positive way. And I'm so pleased for him because, you know, whether it be Burgess is in the 21 now. I'm assuming he's back. He's going to be back from that whatever injury he had. But you know that if Burgess or Davis or even one of the centres became injured, then we've got somebody who can step in and produce, you know, a good performance. And I think the future is so bright for him. I've said all along that the kid's going to become an international. And I will, you know, I hear about other clubs that have got decent wingers, but that finish moves. But Noah Booth creates moves as well as finishing them, and that's the sign of a maturity for a 20-year-old. And after a pre-season for Rovers next year, he's going to build. You know, he's an athlete anyway. You can see the shape, his body shape, but he'll build that up even more, and the future's bright, like I say.
Yeah, great to see him in the team, and of course he's not letting anyone down. Certainly, I mean, when you go through all the tries, Badger, you know, I could go through if I went through every try, I think we'd be till about like the last Robin pod, probably 2 hours. For you, what was a pick out of the tries? I mean, I like the Lewis one just before half time when he chips it over. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a lot's been made of the Catalan fullback. Since 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃's departure and how he came in, and I tell you what, he didn't have a great game though. He didn't cover himself in glory, but he's a young lad. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's probably been propelled into a position he didn't necessarily expect to be in. I don't know, Bazza, what was the try of the game for you?
I'd like to say Tyrone, just because for Tyrone it was well earned, but I think my favourite try of the game, because it come out of nowhere, was the one what Steve Till was just on about, the way Noah caught it, plucked it out the air. And I mean, he could have got a bit of white line fever and tried to go for himself, but he didn't. He had the support there, and you'd think Broadbent and Noah both have been playing together all year. The way they was hanging off each other's shoulders, they knew where there was. So for me, I think that was one of my favourite tries of the night, because it literally come out of nowhere. I thought it was going in touch, and next thing you know, the ball pops up, mate. It was magical.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Steve, I think one of my favourite tries was Sue's, where he got to do the Ronaldo celebration, because I think it was a bit of that pressure cooker, just that release. Don't forget, he'd been on a spitting charge, which in professional sport, it's particularly in rugby league, is probably the worst allegation and worst charge you can have, because you know, we all know spitting on a professional sporting field, just not acceptable. Also, when you factor in the character of Jessie Sue, he's an absolute giant, but he's one of the most gentlest people you'll see. So I imagine that would have hit him hard to have that threat hanging over him, and the fact that he's then been found not guilty. And I felt, for me, that was just great for him to be able to just to, not vindication, but just to have that moment of joy, just to, after probably a bit of a crap week that he's had, especially with the threat of being suspended for a minimum of 6 games, similar to Garcia. It would have been, I enjoyed that.
Going back to the incident, I was a bit perplexed at 𝗬𝗓𝗲. He went down massively in my estimation, because the referee said to him, "Are you sure? Do you want to go ahead with this?" And he said, "Yeah." When it looked pretty, I mean, it said he's spitting. If it's spitting him in the face, yeah, but it's spit out and it's connected with his shirt, and so Josh 𝗬𝗓𝗲 went down in my estimation.
Well, I suppose, Steve, the only thing is, I mean, and this is like pure guesstimation. Willie Peters in a post-game press conference, he said, I think it was questioned what was a mitigation that got Sue off with the ban, and he said, "Oh, it's up to cleverer people than me." My only hope, and what I hope, is that maybe 𝗬𝗓𝗲 put in a statement to say, in hindsight, it wanted to spit at me. I don't know. That's me maybe plucking.
I think
things
if
out
that
there, but
I think if that had happened, we'd have heard about that. Warrington would have said something about that. Yeah, you do hear when letters of mitigation going from opposing players. He's just gone down so much in my estimation. He's a decent enough player, but to put another fellow professional through that, when it seemed obvious to most people that, if he was going to spit at him, you're going to, which he wasn't going to do. It'd have gone a bit, it'd have made it to his face, I don't know. But anyway, Jessie Sue, real gentleman, great, to me, one of the best players we've ever signed. And he came out of the week in a positive way and scored that lovely try. I loved his celebration, and you looked at the way the Rovers players celebrated with him. They were all pleased for him as well. And it was just one of a myriad of moments from the game. You take them separately and you enjoy them, don't you? And that's what we did on Friday night.
Yeah, Bazza, you mentioned Tyrone May's try. How pleased are you to see him signing a 2-year contract extension with Robins?
Oh, mate, absolutely over the moon. Just the graft he gets through, and everyone seems to say about him playing in a dinner suit, and he does his own little thing, but he turns it on when he needs to. Tyrone will have his off game. Every single player out there has an off game, but Tyrone's off game seems to get spotted more because people don't really see the work, what he does. They just seem sort of like wandering around like he's not bothered, when he really, really is. And for an halfback to tackle like his, I think he's got to be one of the best tackling halfbacks across here in Super League. The work he does for us is incredible. He's a great player. He don't do the flashy stuff, and I think that's what complements Mikey, and I think that's why Mikey stands out so much as well, because he frees up Mikey to play his own game, and Tyrone seems to do the clever, tough stuff, but not the champagne rugby. And I don't know, I think it's great for us, it's great for the club, and yeah, I think we don't have to worry about Mikey leaving anytime soon, because I don't think that partnership will break up. Same with Willie Peters, because the NRL keeps sniffing, don't they? So it's great for the club, and if it's right that his partner and his young child will be coming over, then if that is right, I believe we'll see an even better version of Tyrone May as well. Because yeah, what a player, what a guy.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, probably most Rovers fans expected a year's extension. 2 years is shows you the direction that we're heading, and how much and how valuable Tyrone May to the side. What is it, Steve, that impresses you most about Tyrone May?
Just about everything. His defence is superb. I've got a really good friend who still doesn't like Tyrone May. He says he does nothing. I said to him, he does nothing.
Well, I tell you what, Steve, there's a lot, let's be honest, and maybe not so much now, but for a lot of Rovers fans, Tyrone May has had to win them over. I think that's that's fair to say.
Yeah. He won me over when he was playing for Catalan. So when we signed him, I was thrilled. And you say Rovers fans were hoping for, you know, a one-year extension. To get a 2-year extension is solid gold for me, because when you know he had that incident back in Australia where he had a lot of time out of the game. I'm told that all the time he was out of the game, he was watching videos, constantly watching NRL videos to see ways of improving himself when he came back. And if that's the case, then those videos were like gold dust, because he is vying for me for Player of the Year. I don't think he'll get it, but he would be one of my top 3 players of the year.
Go on, Bazza, you go on, mate.
No, I just wanted to come in. What really made me proud about the Tyrone May thing, which 𝗀𝗲𝗄𝗍𝗂 come out and said, Tyrone didn't sign a 2-year deal because he had to. He signed it because he wanted to. So that shows what the club means to Tyrone as well. And we will have players staying if they feel like they have to. It's the fact he wanted to, which I think is a massive, massive factor. And again, that's why I think we're just going to see him getting better and better.
Yeah, and also, Steve, don't forget, it's very rare, isn't it, that a player playing in Super League, when they get offers from the NRL, turn them down.
That's right.
It's very rare, very, very rare.
Yeah, it is rare. And I think he must have a big offer. He must have had a big offer from Rovers to stay. But I'm glad he has, and then you blend him in with Mikey, so each of them know what they're doing, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? A rugby league team. Then you see which flanks they're going down, and they're linking with those players on those flanks, and you get what we've got: Hull Kingston Rovers. A forward pack that's brilliant, 2 half-backs that play on the back of that forward pack very well, and then it gives the 3/4 the chance to pop in for the tries, and if you've got any weak link in at half-back, then you could have problems, but there's no weak link. We've got 2 of the best half-backs in the country.
Yeah, and it was interesting what 𝗀𝗲𝗄𝗍𝗂 was saying about, I think in the pre-match press conference ahead of Castleford on Thursday night, when I think he was asked about Tyrone May. He was basically saying Tyrone May gets through all the dirty work, so Mikey Lewis from tackle 4 and 5 can do the run, can do the kick, can do the. So Mikey always looks like the explosive, play that we expect him to be. But that's only on the back of Tyrone May, and it'd be interesting to get Mikey Lewis's opinion on Tyrone May's contract extension, because obviously, I mean, they dovetail, Bazza, each other so well in how they complement each other. And sometimes when you have two halfbacks, standoff and halfback, you expect them both to be able to do running through, chips over, miracle passes. But actually, it's a bit of yin and yang. You need to have someone who drops the anchor so that the other player can then go and do their magic. And I think we've got that. And I think that's why there's no doubt, I think, for me, Bazza, Tyrone May. You mentioned about the Player of the Year trophies. It'd be interesting to, well, I tell you what, on the basis of the bus parade, I've got no doubt Dean Hadley's probably going to get Player of the Year, player. But I reckon Tyrone May will be a really close second.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to that yin and yang thing you've just referenced, you want to see Tyrone, I think, against Catalan, I think he tackled 28 times You know, and in that one game, tackling blocks, twice the size of him. What other halfback does that? I mean, you look at the Wembley, you know, Mark Sneyd won't getting stuck in things like that. George Williams was a bit reluctant to. Then you've got Tyrone May throwing his body in front of absolutely everything, absolutely no respect for his own body. And it's just the way he sort of like trickles across the line, looking for a gap, looking for an opening, and just a little something off the cuff. But again, doing the hard stuff on tackle 1 and 2, to free Mikey up, to let Mikey do what he does. And yeah, when Tyrone does kick, he's not the best infield kicker, but he still gets us down the field as well. And again, there's so polar opposites, and I think that's why they work so well. But Tyrone's not the only great halfback defense wise, because I think this year Mikey's defense has improved tenfold this year, and I think they are actually learning a lot off each other, and the chemistry they've got at the minute it's phenomenal. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Bazza's right, because a lot of times Mikey Lewis was the weak link in terms of defence, because it was quite a slight character as well. You know, he'd sometimes switch off. His physical capability wasn't there. I mean, if you look at him now, he is strong as an ox. You know, he is. That's why he's able to score them tries when he's 10 metres, 15 metres out from the line, where he's able to take a sidestep, but then power his way through 3 defenders because he's so strong. And I think there's, like Baz is right, as good as Tyrone amazing defence as well. Mikey Lewis, you know, they've got that equilibrium across the line, haven't they, where they're both halfback, you know, both players in 6 and 7 can go defend, and that is our side now. The minimum is you defend. You've got to be able to defend, let alone what you can do in attack. Your minimum is your defence.
Yeah, I mean, Mike has built his upper body strength. I was looking at some videos earlier today of when he, you know, when he first signed, when he was with York, and his upper body strength is totally different now to what it was then. And it reminds me of a player in the past that was a great player for Great Britain, and in Andy Goodway. You know, he had that upper body strength as well. Not Andy Goodway, Andy Gregory. Andy Goodway is not my favourite. Andy Gregory. You know, a cheeky little scrum half, but had that upper body strength. And, you know, we might not have won at Wembley had it not been for Mikey's defence, because Mikey's defence, I can think of 3 or 4 occasions where, you know, he pulled off a tackle that had he not been there, could have resulted in Warrington going down the field. So I'm a great, you know, lover of Mikey Lewis as a defender. And when other teams, you know, fans criticise him, I say, well, you'd have him in your team. And I remember one guy saying he didn't out for 79 minutes and then kicked the goal. I said, did you count how many tackles he made? And that shut that guy up completely. You know, the other people are looking at Mikey saying, you know, he doesn't out if he doesn't score a try or make magnificent breaks. I look at him and think, you'll keep that defence up, kid. And when it comes to George Williams or Mikey Lewis at the end of the season, I have a sneaking feeling that Sean Wayne might just be siding with Mikey if Mikey keeps it up the way he is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Bazza, I've watched the Challenge Cup fight. I know we're digressing here. And I'll tell you what, Steve, you get ready for Robin's Revisited, because he'll be coming on very shortly. The more I watch that Challenge Cup final, I'm starting to feel sicker and sicker that Max Sneyd got the Lance Todd Trophy. I think Minchella, I think he any other day, he would have got it just for his performances. I think also people are forgetting Michael Lewis's kicking game. I think Michael Lewis came up with the best kick of the game, which was his dropout. I think that was the best kick. And we seem to have been blindsided a little bit by a player who just put high kicks in that span. You know, if you look at how we dealt with it, especially Jack Broadbent, there was only the Burgess knock on, of course, which led to the try. And I think that's where a lot of the journalists probably got their, you know, voted that way, and especially how the game was panning out. But another day, but, you know, that's sport, innit?
Yeah.
That is sport.
I think Mark Sneyd only got it that day because out the 4 halfbacks out there, I think he was the best of the 4 on the day. But again, that's not taken into defence and whatnot. I think why Mark Sneyd stood out so much is because Rovers this year have been so free-flowing, so attack-minded with getting over the line. And it was Mark Sneyd's boot alone that kept us pinned back in that second half. And I think that's why Mark Sneyd stood out, because no team's been able to pin us back for that length of time and keep us scoreless. That for me is the only reason he got it, because a lot of his kicks was fantastic. But his last play kicks and some of his last play decisions, put it this way, if it was Mikey doing them kicks or them decisions, he'd be getting slated for it. Mark Sneyd made a few bad calls in that game, kicking too shallow, even daft as it sounds, not even going for the drop goal. So as much as he did get the Lance Trophy, did he deserve it? My opinion, probably, because he single-handedly pinned us back with his boot. But I think he also cost Warrington the game that day as well with his game management. So should he have got the Lance Todd? Because, again, you look at the likes of Elliot Minchella, people say Mikey went missing. 60, 70 metre dropout, kicks under pressure for such a young man? No, it was fantastic. And Tom Davis with his kick returns as well, he could have been a contender. There was a few, mate, but it's gone now. We got the one that mattered, kid.
Exactly. Right, Steve, we've got Castleford up next, but before then, let's bring Robins Revisited. Like I mentioned, Steve, we've got Castleford up next on Thursday night. Which game are you going to take us back to?
I'm not going too far back, actually. 6 years.
Oh, good. I thought you might mention 1986 and then start.
No, I'm going back 6 years. It's a game we all saw, I think. It was an absolute thriller against Castleford. We were struggling in the league. Castleford were doing quite well. And it was a game at Craven Park. I'm going to ask you a question, and then you can give me the answer later on. 2 current Rovers players made their debut in this game. So I'm going to ask you the way. Don't be Googling anything, John.
So then you carry on. I'll keep thinking.
So, it was an absolute thriller. And Rovers, they had Josh Drinkwater at scrum half, Danny Mack at half-back, and Rovers led 12-0 at one point and 14-6 in the first half, but trailed at half-time after an 8-point try. Referee Kendall gave Castleford an 8-point try. And they scored from attacking kicks. Peter Matauti touching down his own grubber, while John Rankin took Jake Truman's little punt, if you like. He never touched the ground, but Rankin scored the try. So it was Matochi's second conversion that cut the gap to just 2 points, and they went in front for the first time 6 minutes before half-time when James Clare gathered another kick from Truman and went over the line. So Rovers were behind. It was a crucial game because had Rovers lost this game, as it turns out, they would have been relegated. That's how crucial the game was. And they were pressing for an equaliser in the second half. And Matautia pounced on a loose ball, and Castleford was suddenly 2 tries in front. So that's when 𝗀𝗂𝗀𝗏 went, he scored 2 tries in 4 minutes. It was 26-14 to Castleford, and 𝗀𝗂𝗀𝗏 went over for 2 tries. He finished off a break from Chris Atkin, who will be playing for Castleford on on Thursday, finished off a break from Chris Atkin to score his first, and then he beat 𝗂𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗏𝗲. Do you remember him? 𝗂𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗏𝗏 at Castleford. To regather
𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃.
that's it, yeah, to regather the ball from Maguire's high kick and force his way over for the second. So Shaw kicked his 5th goal, and it set up an absolute frenzy of drop goal attempts in the last 15 minutes. The scores were at that point 26-26, I think it was. Yeah, 26-26. And there were so many drop goal attempts, it was unbelievable. And they all missed. Drinkwater tried it, Danny Maguire tried it. So we went into golden point, and that's when the Maguire magic came in. Because if you remember, Rovers were on the 5th tackle inside their own 40. Maguire put a 40-20 in that landed 10 over at the 10-metre mark, at Castleford's 10-metre mark. He stood back, the ball was fed to him from Drinkwater, and he kicked the goal and landed the points. And those 2 points were crucial because Rovers finished with 20 points, finished the season with 20 points, as did London, but Rovers had the better scoring difference and therefore stayed up. London went down. Now then, the 2 Rovers players who made the debut in that game. Any ideas?
Was it Jez and Dino?
That's right. You got it in one. Yeah.
On loan.
Yeah. Jez Litton and Dean Hadley, that was their debut game. But what a game that was. And the celebrations when Maguire landed that kick.
Right. Do you know what, Steve? You pricked my memory when he said about the 40-20, and that's when I thought, yeah, you know, what an effort that was. That's when, do you know what? That's when an individual player takes a game by the scruff of its neck and I'm going to do something. And to be fair, I mean, don't get me wrong, Dan Maguire made a career out of it, didn't he? For what he did for Leeds and at certain points for the Robins. But yeah, that's when a player goes, I'm going to do something about this game, and it takes a brave player to do that. Yeah, God, time. You know, even that's Bazza in recent memory, innit? And you look where we was then. You know, that's not that long ago.
Danny really argued. I don't know who fed Danny the ball from dummy half. I think it might have been Drinkwater, but you could, when you look at the video replays, there's a little argument going on between them. You know, I think he's telling I think Drinkwater's telling Danny to go back a bit further because he was literally 12 yards from the line when he took the kick. So the Castleford players were almost on him. And, you know, we look at kickers and their timings and that. You wonder how they've got the time to make a kick. Well, I'm still wondering how Danny Maguire had time to drop that goal. But
yeah, I tell you what, Bazza, if Danny Maguire wants to kick it from 12 metres out, he's kicking it in. I'm not arguing with him.
No, definitely not, mate. He had a knack for doing things like that, though, didn't he? I tell you what, I still think he's had a massive part on Mikey Lewis's growth. You know, I think a lot of Mikey is down to Danny as well, teaching him. You know, he's been a great teacher to Mikey Lewis when he was at our place. Definitely, yeah. I've still got a lot of respect and a lot of love for Danny Maggs, even though he's desperate to get one over us, and we saw that in February this year, didn't we? How much it meant to him to get one over us, but hopefully Thursday he won't get one over us.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that game very shortly, but that was Robins Revisited. I'll tell you what, before, Bazza, we talk about Castleford on Thursday night, news breaking today, so as we record this, it is Tuesday. Tom Whitehead from Warrington, apparently we're in for him. We're paying a transfer fee to bring him in for 2026. He's also gone out on loan, as we record this, to Salford on a 4-week loan deal. He's played 28 games. He's only played 2 games this season. He's a back rower, a ball-playing back rower. I must admit, he's not a player that I've seen a lot of, you know, for Warrington. interestingly as well, Bazza, it's at the same time that AJ Wallace has gone to Toulouse on a season-long loan deal. I think 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗏 has admitted that he's basically gone on that loan to put himself in the shop window. So in terms of the squad, it's almost like a like for like. I mean, AJ Wallace, he's never really had the opportunity, and maybe he's never presented himself to be given the opportunity. But Tom Whitehead, I don't know. I don't know where he's a player, isn't he? But I don't know where he's going to fit into the side sort of in 2026.
Well, going on to AJ Wallace, mate, it's one of them. Willie Peters has standards, and if AJ can't meet them standards or it's an attitude thing, then, you know, wish him best of luck. As for Tom Whitehead, I didn't know much about him. I know I've spoke to a couple of the boys from Super League Raw, and by all accounts, he made his debut for Wire in 2022. Daryl Powell gave him his debut, and a few of the Warrington fans are a little bit upset by this. Apparently, he's a really, really big unit. He's more of a prop than a back rower. Again, we don't know. We don't know much about the lad, but I think he's played about 9 times in total for Wire. But every time he's had a really, really good stint. And from what I heard earlier from one of the chats, Daryl Powell was actually sniffing round him for Wakefield. So for us to come in and grab him at the right time as well, I think it's brilliant. I mean, 𝗬𝗂𝗏𝗏, he's fast becoming a fan's favourite. Now, he was a Warrington product, so they are producing them, but unfortunately they're producing them, we're taking them, and they're signing the 30+ has been, so they can carry on doing that if we're going to get another 𝗬𝗂𝗏𝗏-like player, because again, he's another Warrington product and he's got Art of a Lion as that lad. So yeah, I think it's good news. A lot of people didn't really know much about Noah Bulff. You know, when you mentioned Noah Bulff, people just thought, why we're getting a player from Hunslet, not knowing that he was from Wakefield. And look what a signing he's turning out to be. So we've seen the good and the bad. So I think it's only positive, because like we've signed Rhys Butterworth in the past with high hopes, didn't make the grade, off he went. You know, and it was kind of the same with Noah Bulff. Nobody knew not about him, but again, he's going to be another fan favourite, 𝗬𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏. So I trust what not just Willie but the club's doing. So I think it'll be a good sign, especially if the Warrington fans are a little bit upset that they've released him. So yeah, it's only good news for us.
Yeah, and Steve, I mean, a player who's not featured that much with the Robins, of course, we're signing from London Broncos. Lee Kershaw, it looks like he's suffered an ACL injury. I mean, the best hope is 6 to 7 months. The worst case scenario is 9, maybe 10. Of course, he's not a player who's featured that much for the Robins this season, but for any player in rugby league, let alone a Robins player, you know, it's the worst type of injury, isn't it, for him?
Yeah. He's been desperate to play Super League. You know, he begged Leeds to give him a pre-season, let him go training pre-season. Ended up at London, played pretty well, played for Wakefield as well before that, and he's one of these players that, in a set, you have a feeling that, you know, I feel sorry for him a little bit, because he just is he at that level? He's a borderline Championship come Super League player, and while you're a borderline Super League player, you're not going to get regular matches. So would it have been better just saying, right, I'm going to go part-time, and I'm sure there are teams in the Championship that would love to sign him. I would think teams like York or somebody like that would love to sign him, but it's tough. And that injury is that whenever I hear any player getting an ACL, I really feel for them, because it takes some doing to come back from one of those.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Bazza, a more positive news on the injury front. Rhys Martin, we could be seeing him very soon back in the red and white. Or will we? Because where's he playing? How does he get into this side at the moment?
Absolutely no idea, mate. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm bagging on our players, but I was a little bit underwhelmed with him. Everyone was raving on. I mean, I've got no doubt Rhys Martin's qualities, but when we lost him, we didn't. I felt like when he was in the side, we didn't improve. But when we lost him, we didn't improve as well. So where does he fit? I don't know. I mean, I like the guy, great player. I think he holds great utility value, especially in the centres. But again, Johno, if you're the coach right now, Reece Martin comes back into that side. Who's taking the kicking tee? You know, would you want to take it off 𝗲𝗲? Because this year his percentage ratios probably up there in the top 3. So again, Reece has got a lot to do to break back into that squad, because Willie won't give him a place on merit just for his name. But again, it'll feel like we're having a new signing again. I dare say we will see the best version of Reece Martin on dry tracks. And we've got some boys out there who've done some massive minutes this year. So I think it'll be a welcome break for some of them boys as well. As much as we don't want to see a 𝗂𝗡𝗂𝗃𝗃 have a week off, or a Dean Hadley having a breather, it'll do them good, and it'll stand us in good stead on the road to Old Trafford. So it gives us good rotation value, absolutely. But at the minute, I don't see how he gets in, because there's not one of them boys who's put a foot wrong, and you can't put him in for his goal kicking, because 𝗲𝗲𝗃𝗃 has been absolutely outstanding. So I'm glad I'm a fan. I'm not a coach, because he's going to have some difficult conversations.
Yeah, and of course, Steve, since Reece Martin's injury, we've seen 𝗂𝗏𝗃𝗃 do 80 minutes, probably something that many of us didn't think he could do, you know. And now you look at him, and he's fitter. I won't say he's leaner than he's ever been, but he's definitely fitter, because he's able to do the big minutes. And now we've seen 𝗂𝗽, Steve, go into the second row, and we've seen him doing big minutes. Not only do big minutes, come up with tries as well. So the competition in that back row spot is hotter than it's ever probably been.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We've got 13 games left. And in those 13 games, we can chop and change players. Everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet. And it's basically getting Reece Martin back's like signing a new player. If you'd have said, you know, we've just signed Reece Martin, you think, well, right, okay, that's brilliant, you know. But that's basically what we're doing. We're getting a new player, and yeah, 13 games left at the toughest time of the season. You need every man in the squad, and so I look forward to when he does come into the team. I look forward to watching Willie Peters' method of choosing the team, and if we can put players in like Reece Martin, skipper of Papua New Guinea, you know, if we can put those kind of players in, we're in a good spot. I can think of other clubs that I'd love to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I do think, I've mentioned it on the Robin pod, I do think that there's certain players in the squad that when they're fit, they don't tell Willie Peters to play in, but they are playing. There's some who would just go straight into that side. If they put their hand up and say that they're fit to play, they play. There's no two ways about it. And I think Reece Martin, captain of Papua New Guinea, of course, you know, tremendous record at Leeds. He's kicking, you know, I think he fits into that bracket of players that just play. What I do enjoy though, Bazza, and this is, I mean, Willie Peters, he's an absolutely phenomenal person. How he's been able to grow this side and cultivate them, is that how there's a maturity about the players. So, for instance, Sam Luckley not playing against Catalan, he'll take that, he'll understand that, and he'll know it's for the betterment of him, because he'll be ready for the next game. And I think the greatest quality of a coach is not how you produce a good team, it's how you produce a great squad. And I think that's what we've got. We have got a great squad. Every player knows their part in the team. Some players know that, of course, they're not there to play every week. Some players, I dare say, like Danny Richardson, know that they are the backup players. But their job is just as equally important as someone who plays every single game. Because if Danny Richardson starts kicking off and moaning, he has a detrimental effect on the rest of the players. And I picked Danny Richard not for any reason other than just a name, but the way Willie Peters has moulded that squad, where every player is genuinely just happy for the next player to be playing and achieving the success. I mean, that's phenomenal to be able to do that. And like I say, when you see the players, especially on Friday night, when you saw them celebrating the Challenge Cup victory, which I must say was a very special moment after the Catalan victory, all the players were reveling in it. The squad was reveling. It wasn't just the players who were on the pitch. It was everyone. And like I say, that is, for me, not just a sign of a great coach, but just a great man manager. And I think Willie Peters, his trajectory and what he's doing for this side, I mean, you can't say it's unrivaled, because there's coaches who have gone before him, well, there's one coach ultimately who's gone before him who's done great, but do not what we're doing at the moment and what he's doing at the moment. Yeah, it's phenomenal for me.
I think what a lot of it is a great man himself. He is a great person, and that spills out onto the players. His respect, his honesty. He has communication with everyone. He never single-handedly takes credit for anything. He always makes it clear it's not just about Willie, it's about every one of them coaching staff, every member of staff at OKR, every player, every squad player, and everyone is involved. He involves everyone, and there's just such a level of respect. I mean, I listened to the Danny Ward on the Bench podcast, which I don't know if he was going to get onto, but
yeah, go on, carry on, mate.
Just to have that insight into how they all communicate, and it's not just always about rugby. It's how the boys doing off the field. You know, if they've got any issues off the field, you know, Willie will talk to them. You know, it just oozes respect, and not just from one player, but any player. If something good's happening with a player outside the game, you know, Willie Peters is asking him how it went. If something bad happens to a player outside the game, Willie Peters is there as a shoulder, as a mate to talk to. So it's that mutual respect throughout, and it's building bonds. And when you have a bond, it's hard to break. And he's created that not just with himself and the players, but everyone involved with OKR, from the board to probably even the girls who work in the club shop. It's just all connected so tightly from top to bottom. There is no loose ends. And to be fair, Willie pretty much manages that, along with Danny Ward and Paul Lurkin. And I've never seen it. I've never seen this cohesion right across the club, top to bottom. It's nice to see. And again, it's not Willie Peters and him. It's they involve the fans as well, and I think that's what makes everything work so well. And I think that's why a lot of it is Willie Peters' personality spilling out onto other people and gaining that respect, gaining that trust. And I think that's why we're in a good spot. I mean, like what Sam Luckley said, going into the Challenge Cup, we're dragging that trophy back. Basically, they're willing to die for one another. That's the sort of mentality, and that's what's been built. It's not been built overnight. It's been nearly a 3-year process, but it's here, and I think it's going to be here for quite some time now.
Yeah, Bazza, you're so right. And that on the Bench podcast with Jenna Brooks and John Wilkin with Danny Ward, it is well worth a listen. I mean, what surprised me, Steve, is that Danny Ward, his family, still live in London. So they're still down south. You know, he only sees his family, and he's got grown-up kids who are doing just. He only sees them at weekends, and that was his commitment. He wanted to be part of this journey that Robins are on. And when I think you listen to that, it empathizes. Yeah, you say it for me, Bazza.
No.
But it shows you how much people want to be part of this journey, that people make that sacrifice. let alone the fact that Danny Ward was a head coach, is a head coach, and he's willing to come. But he talked about how he'd only come to a club if he felt that he was going to be part of the journey. It was a club progressing, and obviously the Robins are doing that. And I think, you know, Danny Ward, we forget, a lot of people questioned whether our defensive efforts will be as good on the back of Brett Delaney leaving, who of course we're going to face on 𝗲𝗂𝗏 in terms of coach at Castleford. But if anything, we've probably gone to another level in terms of defence.
Yeah. I haven't seen the podcast. It's on my list of things to see. But I did know that Danny Ward was not going to be moving from London. His wife's got a terrific job down there. And I think he was with, was it Rosslyn Park?
Yeah, that's right.
From the Broncos to Rosslyn Park. And it looked like we'd lost him to the game. So for him to come up to Rovers and convince 𝗲𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏 that he'd got the right attitude as well, it speaks volumes for the man. I remember his old man playing. He was a good bloke as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, Steve, it's well worth a listen then, because he mentions his old man. And he mentions about the Challenge Cup final and winning the trophy. So it is, honestly, people watching, listening to this, I'd urge you to find it out, because it is a great listen. And I think Bazza said about Willie Peters being a good man. I tell you what, there's a lot of good people in that team, that club at the moment, Steve.
Yeah, it augurs well for the future, because at some point, if we were, God forbid, to lose Willie to the NRL, there are people there now that follow his mantra, you know, and it could be a stepping stone going from being an assistant coach at Rovers. And don't forget that Danny Ward has been a head coach.
Yeah.
So you know, he'd be the natural progression, and you know, then you've still got Sean Kenny-Dowell and 𝗁𝗁𝗲𝗂𝗏, you know. So we're in a good spot.
Definitely. Right, let's fast forward. Let's try not to spend too much time. I can't believe how much we've spoke already. Castleford on Thursday. Only the small matter, Bazza, of 8 former Robins in the Castleford squad. Sam Wood, Rowan Milnes, George Lawler, George Griffin, Louis Senior, Will Tate, Dan Okoro, Chris Atkin, and of course, Danny Maguire and Brett Delaney on the coaching side. We saw them get a victory against that lot. I don't know what you read into that, because, you know, Castleford are flat deceived this season. To be fair, they've picked up some decent results. You know, is that result what the Castleford got as big as what some people may think it is? I don't know. But if I'm honest, mate, I'm expecting Rovers to go to Castleford and do better than what we did at, I think, this point last season. We got a drop goal victory from Jeslerton. I'm expecting us to do a bit better than that.
Well, it's easy to go into it complacent. I mean, look at that lot over the river. They all went into it complacent and come unstuck. I am expecting a win. I'm not expecting an easy win, especially on that narrow pitch with the crowd on top of the boys. The last couple of times we've been there, mate, it's been ugly. It's been very narrow, and it didn't get much uglier than last year. And we got the job done. I'd like to think we've got a bit more about us this year. There'll be a nice forward battle with Jesse Sue and Tom on one at the weekend. On Thursday. But it should be job done. Get the job done. I think we will get over the line. I can't see Cas scoring more than 6 points past us, and that's based on the boys' attitude towards how much they pride the defence and how much they felt like they'd let themselves down by letting that try at Catalan. No, I reckon we'll get the job done. I'm not saying it's going to be straightforward. It'll be easy. I think it'll be a tough test. I mean, everybody expected KR to put 30-40 on them first game of the year at our place, and again, the runner's close, and this is what I was going about. I think Danny Maggs will have circled this on his calendar, won what he wants, so I'd expect to see the best of Castleford on Thursday, because there's so many former Robins in there, and you talk to players, and players say that as much as they enjoy being at a club, there's nothing better than scoring against them once you've left. So I'd imagine the boys will be turning up for it from Castleford. Let's just hope if we score down Sam Wood's end that none of the boys try celebrating with Sam Wood again like they did last year, because that was quality, that when Mikey started jumping all over his back.
I tell you what, of all the players though, Steve, of course I'm looking forward to seeing the Robins in action. But Tom Amon, his stats keep getting better and better each week. His influence on the game. Interestingly, you know, isn't it, the dynamics of the deal about how he's now going to be a Robins player in 2026. He's on a short-term deal with Castleford, but we're sort of looking after him like he's living in Hull and his family's supposed to be over in Hull, and now we're sort of embedding him. But he's very much a Castleford player. So it's a bit of a weird dynamic going on, but I'm just looking forward to seeing what he brings to the side for Castleford. Although I don't want him to bring too much, because I don't want him to be the difference in terms of the game.
Yeah, we said eight past Rovers players, and then I wondered whether you're going to mention the one future Rovers player. Yeah, apparently he played well last week and is improving all the time. Look, you know, what gets me is a lot of Rovers fans thought, well, he's on loan to Castleford, so he can't play against us. I can't believe that some people thought that. It's a bit like 𝗀𝗂𝗋𝗏 when he played for Leigh. Did you pull him out of the team at Wembley? You know, though Rovers were signing him, you know, he'd signed for Rovers for the following season. I hope we see, like you say, I hope we see the best of Tom Amon and the worst of the other 12 players. And therefore, do you remember last year, Johno, we were there together? We were at Castle.
Oh, mate, that was great. I'll tell you what, I was there with my lad, and we went in all 4 stands. We went in it was great.
I thought it was me when you disappeared, but then I spotted you in the in the far stand.
Yeah.
But remember that game? We were looking at what Rovers should be doing to get on top, and they never did get on top really until the last dying minutes, did they? And I'd actually left the ground. Both teams were level before Jez Litton's drop goal, and I hope it's not as tight as that. Although that won't do us any harm, you know. As long as we win, if we win ugly, we win ugly. It won't do you any harm to have a really tough, hard game. It keeps you focused for the next game, which is Wakefield after that. So, you know, you've 2 teams that are potential banana skins, and Castleford being the first of them. I like Cas, and I like the way they've improved as the season's gone on. And yeah, like you say, we've got Brett Delaney who's no doubt been given the crib sheet on the Rovers players on how to defend against them, and Danny Maguire, who again he'll be mentioning a few people and the way they play. So it's a good test for us this week, and it's one that on the handicap it might be tight. You know, I think Cas get about 8 start again, but it could be tight. It could be tight.
Well, hopefully it's as tight as the Catalan game, Steve.
Yeah. Well, we all thought that, didn't we? Yeah.
That brings us to
talk about the ground. It's not the width of the ground that's the problem. It's the length of the ground, because it's 10 yards shorter than any other ground. So instead of, you know, if you look at the, you get the 10-yard marker from halfway, and then it's only 5 yards to the next marker, and then you get the 20-meter marker. So, you know, when you oh, can I just mention something? I'm going to really just.
Well, where are you going with this one, Steve? Because
no,
I tell you what, you got me worried. Normally, it's only my missus who talks about width and length.
I'm going to digress because the ground is short. I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's not regulation, is it? It's like,
one of the things that I never mentioned about Mikey Lewis that I should do, his kicking game from hand for penalties is absolutely brilliant. I can see Mikey Lewis kicking a ball 60 metres from hand with a penalty. It reminds me of the best rugby union kickers that kick from hand. And this pitch is ideal for Mikey Lewis to get us from our end to their end in just one kick. And
well, I say what, Steve. The last player I saw, I agree with you, but the last one who I saw who was able to, it was Paul Cook, where he had the confidence to really put his boot behind it. And that's the thing in it; it's the confidence to do it.
Yeah, and Mike is doing it regularly now, and I think it's, you know, he had the guy from Doncaster giving him.
Yeah, I wonder whatever happened with that, because there was a thing made of that, wasn't there? The kicking coach.
I'm not sure it's still on, but yeah, Mike is out of hand kicking for penalties and stuff like that. It's just it's made a massive difference, and I don't think anybody's mentioned it before, but it will count in this game against Castleford, you know. So yeah, let's hope we get a few opportunities to, you know, use the talent of Mikey to get those distance kicks.
Right, that brings us to Pat O'Connor on Facebook. I say she, it could be he. There's no pronoun. I'm not guessing. I personally haven't seen much from the Warrington young lad. Maybe one game. Has anyone any idea how good he is? I think we mentioned he's obviously
he's got potential. That's what I've been getting. He's got potential to go on and do good things. So yeah.
And then Regan Andrews, he says, does Martin come straight back into the team when fit? When he didn't look for me, I tell you what, it says Regan Andrews. It sounds like Bazza Kingston. This for me, he didn't look amazing at the start of the season, albeit no one particularly shined until the Saints game, which is a fair point. When it all really started clicking, hard to decide with Martin though, knowing he's a player of quality who gets dropped to squeeze it. Yeah. The biggest question mark, I suppose, Stephen, where does Rhys Martin fit? It's who drops out to accommodate Rhys Martin, isn't it? And that's the biggest. I don't know. We mentioned it. I've got no idea at the moment.
It'll be in the 21 every week, and then it'll be 𝗀𝗧𝗎𝗂𝗧 needs a bit of a rest. You know, I noticed Leon Ruan's been in the 21 the last two games, so. You know,
well, I tell you what, Willie Peters is circulating some of the players, isn't he, in terms of the squad? I mean, the biggest one for me was, of course, Harvey Horn for the Championship final. Be interesting to see where he features, but I think you're right, Steve. Leon Ruin's starting to come into it a bit more. Will we see him? But probably if Rhys Martin comes back, we probably won't.
But the thing is, AJ Wallace started to come in the 21 and was 18th man, and we never got a glimpse of AJ. So,
good point. Gary Lee. Oh no, we'll come on to that question in a minute. Rob Coles, he says, with the proposed extension to quota spot, which positions you're looking at? Another hooker, or create more competition, or a big nasty forward? Of course, that's it's still not confirmed, which is crazy, really, when you talk about recruitment. The looking at changing the rules out of Steve in terms of I think if you've been here for 5 years or you've been you've become quota exempt, which has massive bearings for the Robins, because Rhys Martin and 𝗂𝗲𝗄𝗏 would be two of them players who would come off quota, which means then it frees up 2 quarters. But the caveat to that as well is salary cap as well. So it's okay having the quarter exemptions, but also you've got your salary cap as well on top of that to factor in.
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah, I mean the changes are you just mentioned something, or he mentioned something in the question. Another hooker, but Bill Leyland isn't doing a bad job, is he? You know, so he's kind of backing Jez up. And towards the end of the season, we'll still have Mickey Mack. So I don't know where another hooker comes in. The other key is who are our marquee players? I don't know.
I imagine Hargreaves must be
Hargreaves and Tyrone maybe.
Well, that's the big one, isn't it? Because if he, like we mentioned, if he's turned down a contract offer from the NRL, you can imagine that they're paying more. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Australian dollar's not, it's a bigger dollar, but you pay more money in Australia as well. So it's not necessarily always the best contract. But yeah, do you know what? It's a great question to ask Willie P, isn't it? Who's the marquee players at the moment?
I've never. I mean, it may be a fault with the local newspaper not doing as much as they do for the other club. That question's not been asked. If we had a regular reporter on the local newspaper, he may be able to ask that question. But we don't have a regular reporter on the local newspaper. But the other team do, which is something that I know being off a lot of Rovers fans, by the way.
I know it's the Robin pod, but I think the other lot across the river have rolled the dice today and could be making a bit of a bobo by signing Knight on when they've got no quota spots for next year. So I think they're just doing it in hope that this thing comes into play. But again, that's what I mean. That's the difference between the two. One's living in hope, the other one's planning for a future. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, Bazza, Adam Wadforth, he asked, with the rumoured signing of the Warrington youngster, of course, Tom Whitehead, for 2026, does it further show a lack of faith and confidence in our own reserve and local Hull-born players?
I won't say a lack of faith. They're just not. They're not playing enough, and they're still playing the trade. Don't forget, our youth are still only like 17, 18. Tom Whitehead was coming in. He's 22, so he's not 100% tried and tested, but he's been around the block a little bit more. So our youth still does have time to develop. But again, the boys are working hard behind the scenes to get a more competitive academy. But they only play like 12 games all year, so it's not enough. And I know you got the likes of Wigan who'll just have them rolling off a conveyor belt. But if we can get more of our boys out on season-long loans, progressing like through the championship, I think it'll only bode well. But at the minute, no, I'm not too worried about our championship. I think the one positive is it's bringing our average age down as well, because again, going back to Darrow, he's been a breakthrough. So if he carries on progressing the way he is, he'll be a sensation next year. And who's to say Whitehead won't follow suit? And again, it could be two fantastic props with an average age of like 22, 23. So I'm more than happy with that. I'm comfortable with that.
I say this: if those local youth were good enough to be in the team, and one local youth who is good enough and came into the team as a youngster and is still there, is Mikey Lewis. So if you're good enough, you're in the team. If you're good enough, you're old enough. Those are two things that I would say. If you're good enough, you're old enough, and if you are good enough, you're in the team, you're in the squad. And so, we've got to get all the... I mean, we look at... I don't like mentioning that lot over the other side, but they've got two wingers there who they think should be in the Ashes test. Can you believe that? They should be in the Ashes test. They wouldn't get in Rovers' team. And as time goes on, that will be proven, as far as I'm concerned. Defensively, they've got problems, those two kids. So it's all right putting them in, but the longer they go in and the more they get beaten, that experience can work against them. So, but those two players who people on the other side say should be in the Ashes team, they're living in 𝗀𝗂𝗀𝗀 land.
Yeah, and I think we've already referenced it before the On the Bench podcast. One of the things that Danny Ward was asked, one of the questions was, what would you change about things at the moment? And it was about he'd like to see more reserve grade rugby, a better standard of reserve grade, more regular fixtures, more academy fixtures, because ultimately he wants to see more players, especially the younger players, given more opportunity to play. And at the moment, they're just not playing enough games. There's not enough game time, is there? So hopefully that's something that may change for the future. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. Appreciate your content and getting involved with the Robin Pod. If you go into the game on Thursday night, remember to be loud and proud. And don't forget as well, the Ouse Bridge is down to one lane. So it's going to be an interesting journey home down the M62 as it is always. But for now, live, love, laugh and be happy.
Singing a song. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing along.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members.